Welcome to this episode of Learning Fusion. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the most cursed at nodes within Fusion, the paint nodes. So let's go ahead and roll this intro and let's get into it.
We're learning Fusion together. We'll learn 2D stuff and 3D stuff and particle stuff and compositing stuff, deep pixel stuff and tracking stuff, but not other stuff, but some other cool stuff, because we're learning Fusion together.
So I say the most cursed at nodes because these nodes are extremely frustrating when you're first starting Fusion, because there's a few minor things that happen that make the node completely just fall apart because we don't understand the concept of what's happening with a node. So we have two nodes that are paint nodes. We have this paint node right here, which is just the paint node. And if we hit shift space, we can also search for paint node and bring in the paint node. But we've also got mask paint right here. So let's go ahead and bring that in. And these two nodes are exactly the same. They operate exactly the same and they're equally as frustrating. The only difference is our paint node here requires a background, meaning it needs footage or something to actually paint on, which is going to spit out to our output. And then our mask paint node here is just creating masks that we can plug into any mask input, but it operates exactly the same as the paint node, but only with alphas. So let's move that off to the side and let's go ahead and plug in our paint node. Now, the first problem is, let's say we don't pay attention to where our timeline is and we're just off here randomly in the middle of our footage. We plug in our paint node and we're like, cool, we need to go ahead and paint something. And we make a little paint stroke, push play. Two things just happened. One, our stroke disappeared. If we go back to the beginning, we don't know where our stroke is. If we push play, we see it just randomly pop up and we're like, what the snot is happening? So the two problems is, well, three problems really, is first, we got to realize there's multiple modes here for strokes. And by default, we're set up in multi-stroke, which is going to create multiple strokes per frame. Second, wherever we are in the timeline and we create a stroke, that's where the stroke is going to happen. So if you notice, we're here, that's where our stroke is. Additionally, our stroke has a stroke duration, and it's only going to last that long. So we might think, okay, let's just go ahead and make our stroke duration 30 frames. So this stroke lasts 30 frames, but we push play and it still disappears. That's because we have to set our stroke duration prior to creating strokes. Now, the other problem with this multi-stroke is we can't edit the stroke afterwards. Meaning by default, our paint nodes are creating modifiers. And on these modifiers, we have our strokes here. And within our stroke modifier, we can actually modify our strokes. But if I change our duration here, say I want it to last 120 frames, and I push play, you notice it's still not changing. That's because our multi-strokes aren't affected by these changes within our modifier. The only strokes that are our actual strokes. And if we select this single button right here, the single stroke button, we can edit these strokes, not the multi-strokes. So that's the other problem. So let's go back and I'm actually going to delete this and restart, because often with the paint nodes too, because it's automatically creating these modifiers, even though we go here and we hit refresh, a lot of times we'll get glitches in here. And if you notice, this says multi-stroke 6, because I've loaded a few paint nodes prior to this, and it's automatically going to name this to multi-stroke 6 as it adds a new one. And it just gets glitchy sometimes if you're clearing out strokes and doing stuff. So sometimes it's better just to delete that paint node and bring in a new one. So let's bring in a new paint node. And there we are. So first, I want to make sure I'm on frame 0. I've still got multi-stroke selected. Let's go ahead and create a paint. And we have it by default set to 1. So it's going to last 1 frame. Now, if I go back to the beginning, change my duration to be 30, make another stroke, our new stroke is going to last 30 frames. If I go back to the beginning, change my duration to 120, which is the full length of my footage, make a stroke, it's going to last the full length of the footage. So that's why your strokes are appearing and disappearing. 1, being on the wrong place in your timeline when you're creating it. 2, not changing your stroke duration. And 3, being on this multi-stroke, which is not editable, sometimes creates a problem. But this multi-stroke does come in handy quite a bit. So let's go ahead and get a nice fresh paint node. There we go, new paint node. If I go to my modifiers, look, we're on multi-stroke 9 now. So let's say our client said, hey, we want to get rid of this little thing. And the paint node is used quite often to get rid of little stuff pretty fast, because we could just make little strokes and clone stuff to make things disappear. So first thing we want to do is 1, make sure we're on frame 0, because you notice I was over here. 2, I want to change my stroke duration, and for this stroke duration, I just want 2 frames because our footage is moving. So every 2 frames, I'm going to create a new stroke and mask out this little handle on our C-stand. Then I'm going to change my brush controls, which you also have to do prior to creating any strokes. So there we go. We've got our little stroke set up. Next thing I want to do is make sure I'm on multi-stroke or on clone stroke. So over here, I'm going to select clone, which is this little double brush. Now, if you want in-depth node breakdowns, I think I have a 3-part node breakdown just on this paint node, going over every single thing. So if you want to watch that, you can jump over to our daily breakdowns and look at those videos that cover our paint node in depth. Anyway, we've got it set to stroke. So if I hit my Alt key and select what I want to copy, go over here, I just paint out that little handle I want to paint out. I use my left and right arrow keys to go 2 frames ahead, paint it out, 2 frames ahead, paint it out, 2 frames, paint, 2, paint. You're getting the gist here. Pretty quick. Now, you wouldn't want to do this if you're doing this to a 30-minute video. There's other faster ways and more efficient ways to do this, which I'll show you here in a second. But this comes in quite handy for little easy stuff like this. So there we go. We've got our thing painted out. So if I look there, our handle is gone using multi-stroke, but we didn't finish it all, so it popped back in. There are, like I said, more efficient ways to do stuff like this, but not with this multi-stroke. I'm not a fan of the multi-stroke when I do things, say with a tracker. So let's go ahead and get a fresh paint node again. Add a paint node. There we go. And again, I'm going to make sure I'm all nice and set up. I'm going to go to frame 0. I'm going to change my stroke duration here just to be 120 frames because I want to cover the entire timeline. I'm going to select my square again. And I'm going to select my clone button here, but this time I'm going to select this single stroke right here. And now I'm going to go to our little handle and let's zoom in here. Alt click to find what I want to copy. Let's go ahead and bam, there we go. Our little handle is gone. But if I push play, you notice it's popping in because our stroke isn't moving with our handle. But we can fix that pretty simple. All we have to do is grab a tracker. So shift space, tracker, and we're going to plug our footage into our tracker node. And let's go ahead and track that handle. I'm just going to track forward. There we go. If I go back to my paint node, if I go to my modifiers now, I look for my stroke. So that's my stroke I created. If I go to our stroke controls right here, I can go to the center, right click, connect to, IntelliTracker position. Now it's tracked, but you notice it's not in the correct location. But the good thing is on our tracker, if we go to our tracker modifier that we just created, we can center it right here. So instead of doing offsets on our tracker, we can just go here and offset the position of that track. So there we go. Now it's tracking with our handle there. So if we look, there we go. We use the tracker, a single little paintbrush stroke to cover that handle there. And the same goes with any of this other stuff. So if I wanted to create one to cover this hole right here, I could create a new stroke. So let's go to our tools there. Select my stroke. This time I'm going to use a circle, and let's resize that so it's not as large. There we go. Hold Alt. I'm going to select right there and just paint over that So now we got that painted over. Not quite great, but we can fix that. If I go back to my tracker, let's switch this one off so we're not retracking. Let's create a new one. And on our tracker, where you at? There you are. Let's track that forward. There we go. We can go back to our paint node here. And under our modifiers, find our new stroke that we have. What's our new stroke? Stroke 2. If I just go to our center, connect to path 2 position. So now we're connected to that tracker. And I can go here and offset that so it's in its correct position. And there we go. That screw is now gone. And of course, you would take more time to get this a little better because we can still see that little seam a little bit. But you get the gist of what we're doing with this paint node. Now, the difference between, like I said, this stroke is, let's go ahead and get a brand new paint here. Let's input our paint node. Let's get rid of this tracker. The difference with this stroke right here is if I select this stroke button and we go down to stroke controls, we have the option to change how our strokes are. So by default with this stroke, if I create a stroke on the first frame and I push play, you notice it's lasting the entire timeline. And that's because right here under our duration, we have all frames with no specific duration. If I wanted to change that duration up, what I could do is I could say limited duration. If I only wanted it to be 30 frames, select 30 frames, draw my little line, and you notice we got a keyframe right here at 30 frames where our line disappears. And that keyframe is important because it's different than that multi-stroke. This is actually writing our keyframes, which means we can edit this. So as I said, if we go to our modifiers and we go to our new stroke here, we've got that duration of 30. So if I make sure I have those selected, go to my stroke, I can change this to say 120. So now my line is going to last 120 frames. If I only want it to be 50, I change it to 50. You notice our keyframe just changed to 50. So if I go to the beginning, it's only going to last 50. Additionally, with this stroke, we can change all the rest of these brush controls, meaning I can change the size of my brush now. I can change the softness. I can even change the type if I wanted to. I can change my color. And again, I can change that duration and change my right on and animate my right on and right off if I wanted to. So that's the difference between using your stroke and multi-stroke. Much more control when you're using stroke, less control when you're using multi-stroke, but your multi-stroke is a lot faster for just doing frame by frame hiding things. But one thing to remember that people get a little confused about is when we're using this paint node, and again, let's get a nice fresh one. So nice fresh paint node. I'm going to go to the beginning. I'm on 0. I want to make sure I change that stroke to that. And I don't have to change this because by default it's set to all frames and it's going to write across all frames. So if I wanted to say put a graphic in front of here, like you can draw whatever type of graphics you want of this actress's name here. And so I can write Jen. There we go. There's her signature. If I push play, it's on top of the footage. I could track it if I want, so it's moving around with the footage. But the thing to remember is everything is being pushed across here. Meaning if I bring in a merge, take our original footage, merge in our paint node. If you think you would be able to put something in between here to alter just that, you're not going to be able to. So this is the other thing people get frustrated with. So if we go here and we blur this up, we look at our merge, you notice it's blurring everything because we're pushing everything that's on that paint node, not just the strokes. Now, if we just wanted strokes, that's where this mask paint comes in. So you would do the same thing on the mask paint node. Meaning if we just wanted her signature there, we could do that. We could disconnect all this stuff. Let's move that. And on this mask paint node, let's go ahead and make sure we are on our first frame. Let's select this stroke. And again, by default, it's going to be all frames. And if I write Jen, there we go. We've got a mask of that little signature there. And that's all this mask paint node is doing, is actually painting, but only with masks. So I could bring in a background. Let's change the color of our background to be, I don't know, this pink. I use this mask paint node to bring that in. There we go. We've got our signature on top. And with this, if I wanted to bring a blur node in, I could blur top of that. I could blur the top of that. And now our blur is only affecting that signature right there, because we're only bringing the masked version of that paint node on top of our background. So I hope that makes sense. So with our paint node, it's everything. With our mask paint, we can do little masks of paint jobs there. So I hope that clears up any frustration and stops people from cursing at our poor little paint nodes here. So have fun playing with them. And like I said, that if you really need to get in depth on these paint nodes, there's 3 node breakdowns in our daily breakdowns on these paint nodes. Maybe 1 on the mask paint, because it's the same as our paint node here. But our paint has 3 episodes really breaking it down how to use this. So I'll see you guys in the next episode.